So we're here on Love and Sex tonight with Dr. Marianne Brandon. And Dr. Brandon is the author of the book, Monogamy, the Untold Story. Welcome, Marianne.
Oh, thank you, Karen. It's great to be here.
And tonight's program, Marianne, is entirely on monogamy. So we're looking at it from different aspects. And since Love and Sex is a research-driven program, we want to hear from people who've done research in the field. But first, can you tell us a little bit about your practice as a sex therapist and what led you to write this book?
Yes, absolutely. I work with adults, men and women and couples, and I've been in practice as a sex therapist for almost 15 years, a little longer as a general therapist. And early on in my career, I did quite a bit of work with a gynecologist locally, and we decided to write a book on working with women with low libido. And that's not actually the book we're here to talk about today, but it does give you some idea as to where I've come from in my thinking and my research. So this gynecologist and I, wrote a book called Reclaiming Desire, 4 Keys for Finding Your Lost Libido. And we worked with women to help them reconnect with their desire in their relationships. And in doing that work, I, of course, was specialized in working with women with low libido and essentially did all of my work with women and couples in this area. And there was a significant number of women that, in spite of how hard they tried and how much they loved their husband and how much they wanted to want sex, there's a significant proportion of women that never really did find their desire return after they had been in a relationship for a period of time. And that's what set me out on the quest that led to the book Monogamy, the Untold Story, because I felt that there was something very important that these women shared that wasn't related to pathology. It wasn't that they had intimacy issues or that they weren't working hard in therapy or that they didn't love their husband. And so I knew there was more to the story that we weren't acknowledging basically as a profession of psychologists and sex therapists. So that's hence my research and hence the book Monogamy, the Untold Story, because as you know, where I'm headed is that what we have found is that monogamy isn't necessarily natural for mammals or primates such as us, and that in spite of loving someone, it may not feel natural for a person's body to continue to have sex with the same person over time.
Precisely. And one of the things that I enjoyed very much about your book, Marianne, and I did very much enjoy it, I think I was looking for a book that looked at monogamy from a therapeutic point of view, but that also had clinical practice involved in it and could be research-based. And I really want to recommend it to our listeners if they can get a copy. It's on Amazon.
That's right.
One of the things that I noticed as I read through your book is that you did a nice blending of both the case studies within the office that you would encounter and what's out there in terms of the research. So what is research telling us about the likelihood of a couple surviving in a mono fidelity coupling?
Right. Well, what we see day to day is that about 50% of marriages end in divorce. About 20% of marriages are sexless. So that means that they're having sex less than 6 times a year. That's a pretty amazing statistic. And but
a pretty accurate one, interestingly.
Yes, it is.
Which is what we see in our practice.
Some therapists, yes. And some researchers suggest that the number is higher than 20%.
Yes.
And about 30% of people are having affairs, and of course that number is a guesstimate because it's an issue that people are very secretive about. They don't really want to admit they're having an affair, so many people believe that number is higher as well.
Taking place, and perhaps sometimes when, as we have the phenomenon in Jamaica, perhaps when you have multiple partners, you don't see it as an affair.
You know, Karen, that is so true. People have their own definition of what an affair is, and some people think an internet chat that might lead to masturbation is not an affair, whereas other people might call that absolutely being disloyal to your partner. So there's so much variety in even the definition of non-monogamy.
So in terms of what it is that couples are experiencing, you talk about low libido in women. Did you find a lot of low libido in men?
Absolutely. Not as much. That's a really interesting question. Not as much as in women, but definitely that exists, that men struggle with low libido as well. Typically in a couple, one person has a higher libido than the other. They're usually not the same. And oftentimes, when a woman has a strong libido, a man might back off a little bit, which is interesting. Because men often think, wow, you know, if my wife had a strong libido, I'd be the happiest man on the planet. But sometimes that's not the case. When a woman has a strong libido, a man might pull back and not sort of feel as desirous, and then they wind up in my office, basically.
Precisely. Yes. The phenomena of desire discrepancy disorder, which is people with unmatched libidos, is pretty much a common one for sex therapists, right? Yes. So when we see that happening, and we're in, because I'm trying to distinguish between monogamous, as in married to one person, and monofidelity, having sex with one person. So within your research and practice, what have you seen as some of the things that help couples who are going through this period of low libido?
Well, one thing I suggest is that they define some compromises together, some things they can do that can satisfy the higher libido partner, but not particularly compromise the lower libido partner. So compromises might be, for example, watching pornography together, and the higher libido partner might masturbate, or perhaps they could masturbate each other or have foreplay that didn't lead to intercourse, these sorts of things. And they're unique for every couple. So each couple would need to kind of assess what was right for them and what options they had available to them other than intercourse.
Great. Well, guess what? You mentioned earlier about monogamous couples. In terms of the relationship, that we're working with an unnatural type of situation or relationship, because over time the partners may or may not feel the need or the urge or the desire to have sex with this partner because of the length of time. How do you prescribe? What are the prescriptions that you offer in this book to address this situation that you acknowledge is an unnatural situation?
Right. Well, I'm really glad that you are stressing this point, because while the book is about the fact that monogamy isn't natural, I am very pro-monogamy. Monogamy is a fabulous idea, and it's wonderful for many reasons. So yes, we do talk quite a bit about ways we can help couples enjoy a monogamous relationship, even if it's not natural for their bodies. So one point would be for them to be aware that to keep their sex life satisfying over time, it will require effort and making their romantic relationship a priority. It's not just going to happen. So even if they love each other well, in terms of their emotional selves, they're still going to have to put quite a bit of effort into their sex life to keep it interesting. So that means for them to be very conscious of having a variety in their sex life in terms of positions and emotional expressions when they're making love, and keeping things feeling new and interesting. So that constant sense of newness is going to bring excitement to a monogamous relationship.
Right. Our presenter, Goffman. You're a Goffman, man. You love Goffman.
Irvin. Yeah, man.
The way we present ourselves in everyday life is so important.
You know, so I love what you're saying. It's very important that we respect our own bodies and offer our partners a body that we enjoy as a gift for them to enjoy as well. And that goes both ways. So those are important issues.
If the body that I loved on my partner is not the body that I'm seeing when she's 65, do I really want to be seeing that?
Absolutely.
Why?
You know why? Because you've helped to create that 65-year-old body. If you've been part of the creation of that 65-year-old body through having children together, through your sharing together, in sickness and health, and all the things that you've done, there are things about that body that you absolutely love that have nothing to do with whether or not it's well ironed.
Doesn't your book answer that or speak to that?
Yes. I tell my patients that sex is as much from the heart and the brain as it is the pelvis. So the body itself doesn't have to be a primary aspect of the lovemaking. I'd love to.
Thank you very much. From Love and Sex and from all our listeners, we hope to see your book on a shelf down here so that other people can benefit from what you've written, because it's really very readable. That's Monogamy, The Untold Story, and it's available on Amazon.com. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.